What's up, everybody? P691,000 here. Got a good one for you guys today. It's been a while since I've done the creepy urban legends of any state. So this time we're going to do creepy Maine urban legends. And it has some of the oldest ghost stories in the country. So hopefully you guys enjoy it as much as I enjoy doing the research into it. So without further ado, let's get into it. The East Wind Inn. During much of the 19th century, Tennett's Harbor was both a shipping and a shipbuilding center. In 1860, a local businessman named John Fuller felt that the town needed a large, multi-use commercial building, and so he built the building that would one day be the East Wind Inn. Each floor of the three-story building served a different purpose. The basement was used by Fuller's son as a tin shop. The main ground floor Fuller used to run a general store. The second floor was used by a sail sewing business, and the top floor was rented to the town's Masonic Lodge until 1894. In 1921, the commercial building was bought by a man by the name of Charles Raleigh, who converted the building into the West set for tourists, mostly from Boston. Arriving by steamer in the summer months, in 1941, the inn was sold to Frank Scruton, who abandoned the building in 1954. The property stood vacant from 1954 through 1974, when local Tim Watts bought it, renovated it, and dubbed it the East Wind Inn. Guests arriving at the East Wind Inn in Tennett's Harbor are advised to stay clear of rooms 12 and 14. Visitors in those rooms have frequently reported an odd feeling of being held down in their beds by unseen hands. On the main floor, a gray figure has been seen climbing the main stairwell and looking out an ocean-facing window. And throughout the building, there are reports of strange noises, such as wailing and crying, and physical abnormalities like windows and doors opening and closing on their own seem to be a regular occurrence at the inn. Fort Knox, Prospect, Maine. Located on the west bank of the Penobscot River in Prospect, Maine, in an area known as the Penobscot Narrows, Fort Knox is one of the best preserved military fortifications on the New England seacoast. The fort has many unique architectural features as well as a rich history behind its walls. The fort was named for Major General Henry Knox, who was America's first Secretary of War. The fort was established in 1844 to protect the Penobscot River Valley. The fort garrisoned its first troops from 1863 to 1866. These troops were mostly volunteers undergoing training before being sent to their active posts, and including members of the celebrated 20th Maine. Troops were also briefly stationed at the fort during the Spanish-American War in 1898, but they never saw military action. Despite the lack of reported deaths in military action, the fort is said to be haunted. Visitors to the fort have reported a large amount of paranormal experiences, such as feeling cold spots, being touched by unseen hands, seeing ghostly apparitions and strange lights, and hearing voices, laughter, and footsteps. The fort has been featured on several paranormal TV shows. Investigators reported recording strange lights, unexpected thermal readings, and even a few EMPs. Goose River Bridge in Rockport, Maine. The Goose River Bridge, located in Rockport, Maine, is said to be haunted by the spirit known by many as the Pitcher Man. As legend has it, during the American Revolution, a man named William Richardson played his part in the war effort by either actively fighting in battle or aiding American privateer Samuel Tucker, who stole a British ship, by guiding him safely away from British forces. When the war ended in 1783, the town of Rockport, known as Goose River Village at the time, celebrated Mr. Richardson and led the celebrations by rolling out barrels of ale, passing around the pitchers, and making sure mugs were always full. At some point in the evening, after drinking his fill, William Richardson wandered away from the party and met his death by either falling over the bridge in a drunken stupor or running into some Tory British sympathizers who, having taken it as an insult when he offered them a toast in celebration of the end of the war, struck him on the head with the butt of a rifle and left him to die on the bridge. It is believed that since his death, the Goose River Bridge has been haunted by William Richardson's ghost. Visitors claim to see a man with a pitcher in his hand, wandering the bridge, offering ale to startled passerbys, before disappearing into thin air. If you are driving, he may even thrust his ghostly pitcher of ale through your car window. Although by all accounts, Richardson's ghost is said to be very friendly. Maidens Cliff in Camden, Maine. A huge white cross rises from the Maidens Cliff lookout. Below the cross, a plaque reads, Eleanor French. On May 7, 1864, this 12-year-old farmer's daughter fell to her death from this cliff. According to legend, she was here as a member of a Maying party and fell trying to catch her wind-blown hat. This cross was erected in her memory. According to the Lincolnville Historical Society's records, on May the 7th, 1864, 12-year-old Eleanor French, daughter of Deborah and Zadok French of Lincolnville Beach, went Maying after Mayflowers with her older sister, their teacher, and a young male friend. While no one can say for sure, it is believed that as the small party were exploring, a gust of wind stole the little 12-year-old girl's hat, and giving chase, she tumbled over the cliff's edge in an attempt to capture it. No one even realized she had gone until they heard her screams. Sadly, Eleanor did not survive the fall, and a cross was erected at the site to honor her short life. Visitors of the cliff report overwhelming feelings of sadness and grief, seeing the apparition of a hat, and sometimes even the young girl chasing it, and then plummeting off the cliff and hearing screams carried by the wind. Nelly Butler, the first documented haunting in the United States, Sullivan, Maine. In the winter of 1799, in the small coastal town of Sullivan, Hancock County, Maine, began what is known as the first and most documented haunting in the United States. During this series of hauntings, numerous residents of the town claimed they saw and heard the ghost of Nelly Butler, a young woman who had died 3 years before. This phenomenon was recorded by the Reverend Abraham Cummings, a traveling preacher who believed the apparition was a spirit sent from heaven. Cummings collected 31 eyewitness testimonies from town residents, which he included in a book titled Immortality Proved by the Testimony of Sense, and which is considered the doctrine of specters and the existence of a partial specter. The story begins in the Bledsdale house near the rocky shore of Taunton Bay. It was in the cellar of that house where the ghost first appeared and most often took shape and spoke. according to the testimonies recorded by Cummings. Claiming to be the spirit of Nelly Butler, the ghost sought to orchestrate the marriage of Nelly Butler's former husband, 29-year-old George Butler, to Linda Bladesdell, who was 15 years old at the time. Testimonies by members of the Bladesdell and Butler families, as well as Nelly's family, the Hoopers, state that the spirit was relentless, visiting multiple times and answering personal questions to prove its identity. On May the 28th, 1800, Lydia and George were married on Butler Point. The next day, the ghost appeared and prophesied that Lydia would bear one child and die soon after. The prophecy came to fruition 10 months later and echoed the sad fate of Nelly Butler, who had also died in childbirth when she was only 22 years of age. Some in the town saw the prophecy as a sinister curse. Because of this and the meddling nature of the ghost, many suspected the apparition not to be Nelly Butler, but instead a demonic spirit. Others thought the haunting to be a hoax and accused the Bladesdell family of tricking George Butler into marriage. The York Witch, Old Burying Yard, York, Maine. Near the southwest corner of the old burying ground is a grave, with head and footstones between which, and lying on the grave, is a large flat rock, as large as the grave itself. The inscription reads thus: Mary Nason, wife of Samuel Nason, died August the 28th, 1774, aged 29 years old. The writer of this, when a youth living in York, was given to understand that this stone was placed there to keep down a witch that was buried beneath it. As the stone's inscription implies, the witch buried in the old burying yard is Mary Nason, wife of Samuel Nason of Old York, Maine, who passed August 28, 1774, at the age of 29. In life, Mary was a devoted wife, a loving mother, and a respected healer in the community, said to be skilled in both herbalism and in performing exorcisms. Because of her knowledge in healing with plants and dispelling of dark afflictions, Mary became known as the White Witch. Mary's grave is a unique one due to both its location in the cemetery and the stones adorning it. Her grave sits all by itself near a far corner of the cemetery. It is ornamented with both a finely made headstone and footstones, as well as a slab that covers the area of the ground where Mary's body was laid to rest. According to local legend, the people of York placed the stone slab across the earth above her body in an attempt to keep the White Witch from rising from the grave. If the stone was placed there in an attempt to keep the witch from rising, it was unsuccessful. According to Joseph Creto's book, Weird New England, Your Guide to New England's Local Legends and Best Kept Secrets, Mary's ghost has reportedly been seen at a park close to the old burying yard, pushing local children on swings and giving them wildflowers. What's up, everybody? P691,000. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video as much as I liked doing it. I always like doing urban legend stuff for you guys from every state. And of course, Maine has some of the oldest urban legends and ghost stories in the country. The story of Nelly Butler, the first reported documented ghost in the United States, was very interesting. I didn't know that that was the first documented ghost case in the United States. Very cool. And the story about the York Witch was kind of sad. She sounded like she was just a nice lady. She was good at herbal medicine, which was very popular in the 1800s. It was popular in the 16, 15, 1400s. Um, and it sounded like she was just an all-around nice lady. Even her ghost, if has been reported playing with children and giving them wildflowers. So, uh, a white witch, of course, is a good witch, as opposed to a witch who practices dark arts, which would be evil magic, black magic, if you will. Those are evil witches, but a white witch is usually a good witch. So it sounds like she was a pretty nice lady, but hope you guys enjoyed these series of urban legends from Maine. Um, don't know what I have in store for next time, but whatever it is, I hope to see you guys there. Peace, love. I love you all. Have a great day.